because oftentimes these corporations don't accurately assess the price point they could sell or rent something at, which means that in actuality what happens is nobody can afford the prices that are being set. So there's a crash and everything goes down, and that leads to a lot of people losing their money, which means lost jobs and so on and so forth. Also, it really isn't good for like the long-term health of a city if half of your downtown area is just empty, like dead empty. That's not actually good for your city. It doesn't encourage people to buy, you know? Like seriously, right now, for example, a good, like in where I live, a good example would be downtown Seattle. Half of downtown Seattle is like empty, you know? The whole commercial district over there that's near the convention centers, half of the stuff over there is just empty, you know? Vacated, you know, corporations own it, but the price is so high, there's no need for it. It's just not accessible. Trust me, if the rent was low enough, businesses would set up there, but it's not, so they don't. So everyone's unhappy. Walking Third Avenue is nowhere near as busy as it should be. Yeah, everything near the commercial area, near the you know, all of it. Capitol Hill is still booming for the most part because it has a different kind of city culture, but still, it's an issue. Meanwhile, if you go to the main commercial center in Bellevue, which is a much newer city that's also a lot less interesting to live in, the commercial district there, which is like 4 square blocks, it's not that big, which is mostly sort of paraded around through rich people, that area is very vibrant, very hustle, very bustle. And in large part, that's because there's been an actual like investment in the ability for people to set up there and make that sort of a vibrant commercial area, you know? I don't know. It's just kind of grim. It's a little grim, you know? My city is getting ready to kick an owner out for doing just this in our downtown area. Totally neglected some massive properties. Yeah, it strangles a fucking city. One developer that owns a few dozen properties that they're just sitting on can strangle a critical commercial area in a city. And the only thing that you would have to do to fix this, the only thing, is to introduce a severe tax on any properties that you own that are not being used. That's it. If you own residential properties that are not being used, you're just sitting on them, that's wasted space, buddy. People gotta live. You should be taxed heavily. Likewise with commercial space. If you own some gigantic commercial block downtown and nobody's setting up shop there, why is nobody setting up shop there? I'll tell you why. The reason why is because your rent prices are too fucking high. You call the office that's advertised in the fucking window with the big plastic decals you've put up there saying, want leasing space? Call here. And it's like, oh yeah, this is actually $12,000 a month. And nobody can fucking afford that, you know, depending on the area. Some places could. So they don't set up shop there, and downtown gets strangled. It dies. So yeah, tax the shit out of them. And if people are like, oh, well, what if we legitimately can't get rid of the property? What if we're lowering the prices so much and people still aren't setting up? You're going to tax us heavily? Then sell it. That's it. Lower and lower and lower and sell. That's what speculative investing means, dipshit. That's the point of speculation. If you buy and you lose, you lose. The way big corporations want to treat speculative investments is how the market can only go up. And if it doesn't, if it goes down, that's the system breaking, you know? If they make a bet on a big property downtown and it doesn't work out and they lose a bunch of money, that is like a conceptually unacceptable outcome to them, even though they were perfectly willing to go in on the risk, if it even can be called a risk, because they're apparently not willing to accept the consequences of a failed investment, you know, when it meant they could potentially receive profits. Yeah, tough shit. Tough shit. That's the whole point. That's what speculation is. What do you think speculation means? You know what? You know the old saying like capitalism for the poor, socialism for the rich. I don't like that saying for the most part because socialism is not the government bailing you out. That's not what socialism is. However, this is the closest you get. The closest you get is the government subsidizing the losses of corporations that make a bad investment, and this shit happens all the time. You know, because the corporations will make the argument that their loss is everyone's loss. So why shouldn't they be propped up? You know, when in reality, it was their aggressive bad investment that cost everyone, say, a really key downtown area. And we're all paying for it, both in terms of not having that area and in terms of the city taxes that'll go to subsidizing their loss. Also, remember, every big empty property that's owned by a realtor in your downtown area is a subsidy from the government, because if that area was being used properly and there were businesses open there, those businesses would be paying taxes, and those taxes would go to the city. By allowing big, highly profitable commercial ventures to just not operate, to allow corporations to do that, the corporations are strangling the city of millions in taxes, which is bad because I think it would be good if they paid taxes, you know. What is this? For a glorious moment in time, vacancy taxes enabled us to live in relative luxury with all of our friends. Yeah, Vancouver did this. Steam room, swimming pool, and a private bedroom in a mansion for just $800 a month. How Vancouver college kids are living the high life thanks to globe-trotting landlords keen to avoid vacancy taxes. See? These rich dipshits with their giant houses they don't use, and these investment vessels that buy up apartment buildings, they were threatened with a massive vacancy tax. So, in a desperate bid to not have to pay that massive vacancy tax, they were like, fuck it. Yeah, you can use the property. Here, have a mansion. Here, half the apartment prices. Here, whatever, go for it, you know? This is from 2019. I'm pretty sure they've changed these laws by now. But yeah, for a brief moment in time, glory, beauty. Students are reaping benefits while the market has been a nightmare for sellers. Aw, can you just not sit on commercial and residential properties indefinitely while waiting for the price to skyrocket to $50 billion so you can live off that for the rest of you and your fucking future generations' lives? Oh, I'm sorry. That must be a lot of work having to let people live in the spaces designed for people to live in. I'm anti-homeownership because homeowners are the worst humans alive. There is no group of people more fucking entitled and more destructive to cities on the West Coast than homeowners. Homeowners who bought a bunch of properties on the West Coast back in the 70s have been strangling California for decades because not a single law, nothing can get done if it even remotely jeopardizes their property taxes, because these fuckers are like 75 and for some reason they really care about the value of their property that they live in. They live in that property. So I don't know why it matters what the number next to it is. You're going to be dead soon anyway. Like what? But no, nothing can get done if it even remotely jeopardizes that number, which is why California barely builds any new development. Vaush hates the homos. True. You know what's wild? USA, despite having 3 times the population of Japan, only builds 17% more houses than Japan annually. Yeah, seriously, Tokyo has really accessible rent and housing prices because they just build and they build and they build, which is what you should do if you're a mega city that has a lot of people in it. One of the reasons why, this is what I learned, by the way, when I bought my Japanese denim pants, which are amazing, by the way. One of the things that I learned is that the reason why there are so many like weird like craftsman tier items that you can get from Japan, like specifically in basically every artistic field, whether it be like your pencils or markers or certain types of clothing, what like it's like, here's the very good version of it made in Japan. Why? Well, the reason for that is because in Tokyo, the housing prices are low enough that a lot of craftsman workshops have been allowed to survive there, whereas in the West, they can't survive because they've been choked out, you know? So there are a lot of places in Tokyo where you'll have a workshop on the bottom floor and the person lives on the second floor. And there will still be like the old way of doing things where you have a father who works like their whole life doing a profession. And then it's like, here you go, son, now you take over the family business. And they get to keep doing that. And as a consequence of that, there are a lot of really high-end like artisan shops in Tokyo. Trad life, but cool. Isn't it nice, the idea of being to walk around like a residential neighborhood and be like, oh, that's my neighbor, that's my neighbor, that's my neighbor. And that's the like artisan thread weaver who's been doing this since 1492. And the current house is just built on top of the workshop they had in Tokyo like that long ago, you know? And like you can go over there and like look through the window and there's a loom spinning or something, you know? And they make the money to do it. That's not just like an antiquity. They make enough money to live there because they make artisan goods that they sell like to a small clientele. And that's enough. That's how it used to be. That's how it used to be everywhere. And now it's not. Yeah, socialism means reestablishing the trad life, unironically.